Fantastic, right? Who can tell me who sang that song?
Eddie Grant.
Eddie Grant. That's what I'm talking about. Good. Man, I hope everybody is doing well today. Hey, I wore a special tie today. If there's a problem and you can't hear me, it's because my tie is just too loud for me. So, hey, I hope everybody's doing fantastic. It's so great to see everybody. I'm sorry that I missed last month, but you know, I don't know if you guys are paying any attention. The Braves are on a tear right now. I think it's like best record in baseball. It's fantastic. And the number 6 Auburn Tigers are doing pretty well in baseball as well. But, you know, I know. Yeah, that's okay. Hey, summer is just around the corner. And if your house is anything like mine, I think it's like summer's already there. Just ask my kids. No routine at all. But you bear with us for just a few minutes here today, and we'll turn everybody loose, and you can go and start having some of your summer fun. I just want to thank you again for being here and staying engaged with us. A lot of good conversation here today. You know, obviously your chamber is focused on connection and clarity and forward progress, and today you're going to hear a lot about that. And as always, we are grateful for our series hosts, Emory Healthcare, Warner Robins, and Perry, and for our longtime presenting sponsor, Synovus. And I'm going to ask Mr. Ron Weigel to come up here and offer an invocation and a pledge. And hey, Ron's boy's here. Let's make sure we really encourage him today so he can be proud of his dad, right?
I thought he turned it off. I promised Ronnie I wouldn't embarrass him, but you know, dad jokes, y'all, before I get off this stage, you know we're going to do dad jokes. So he's used to that piece of embarrassment. I'll reiterate a little bit about what Jeremy said. This chamber is phenomenal. Thank you, April. Thank you, Orly. You know, look, just like any of you as an individual or a corporation, there's only so many discretionary funds that go around, and so you have to place them where you get the most value. And we definitely get value in the chamber, and today is just one example of that, where we get some value in what we're hearing from the legislators. I'm looking forward to hearing the panelists and hearing the dialogue about that. But those are things that impact our community. That was impact our community and impact our businesses. So with that, if we'll center ourselves, if y'all stand, we'll go to the Lord in prayer and do the pledge. Lord our God, we thank you for who you are. We thank you that you're mindful of us, that you created us and sent your Son on behalf of you for our sins. We're just so grateful beyond measure. And so we come with hearts of gratitude, and we're humble. And yet we need you in everything. So we ask for your guidance, and we ask for you to send us in places where there's need. And we just ask for you continued blessings on our community, on our first responders, on those that are serving overseas to protect us, just in all those things. And again, as always, we just ask that you make us sensitive to those in need. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, please be seated. Now comes the fun. So, y'all may not know, I went, our whole family took a trip to Europe. This is true. Took a whole trip to Europe a couple of years back, and we went to Normandy for the 80th, and it was really something else. And I really got a insightful thing on what different generations are. You know, like the baby boomers, Gen Z, all these different generations. I really am I'm immersed in this, and so I started wondering. I was like, y'all know what generation Forrest Gump is from? Gen A. Now, okay, any that did laugh at that, you can check. Okay, I got one thumbs up. I'll roll on that one. I'm going to say one more, and then I'll give the stage up. The inventor of the Ferris wheel and the inventor of the merry-go-round never crossed paths. They just traveled in different circles.
Fantastic. All right. Please, y'all. Please, welcome. Thank you. We have to encourage. We have to. All right. Hey, thank you, Ron. Always good to see you. Ronnie. Sorry, buddy. We're grateful for the support of Terracon as our longtime sponsor of today's event. Their team plays an important role in helping communities and businesses grow through engineering, environmental, facilities and construction solutions that quite literally help build strong foundations for the future. So including Flint's building out there at 1937 Electric Avenue. So please join me in welcoming my good friend, Mr. Tyler Garrison.
All right. Good morning. So I was told that I had to get up here fast because that the next verse of that song is a little not appropriate for all of us. So I got up here fast. So I was also told to bring my shovel with me to make sure everybody knew what we do. So no, thank y'all for having us today. My name is Tyler Garrison. I'm the operations manager here in Macon for Terracon, and we just are super grateful to be a sponsor of this program again. It's our favorite event that we get to come to and get to hear from the legislators and what took place in session and what we have coming and what we have in play for next year. So we're extremely grateful for the opportunity that April gives us every year to be here. If you don't know us, we do geotechnical and environmental consulting work, and we also do construction material testing. And so we work on a lot of projects that are happening all over Middle Georgia, and we appreciate that. So much so that over the last 5 years, we've seen some exponential growth. We've gone from about 65 folks to employing about right around 100 here in Middle Georgia. So we've got jobs from everybody just graduating high school to archaeologists and people that have their PhDs in engineering. So it's a really deep business, and we really love being able to support the community and the projects that we get to be a part of. So with that being said, thank y'all very much, and just let us know if we can ever help you all.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. There's probably some joke in there that you brought the shovels when all the politicians are going to be here. So we'll see. Just kidding, guys. Just a little humor there. Not much. Right? Hey, how about a special shout out to the 2026 Leadership Robbins class. I think they're in the back there, guys. Welcome today. Glad to have you all here. I don't know if you guys have ever done this class. I did it in 2022. So I'm an alum of Leadership Robbins. It's fantastic. It gets you engaged all throughout the community. I encourage you, if you've got somebody on your staff that's new, that don't know anything, don't know anybody like I mean, right here in the middle of the country, it was weird. It opened my eyes to everything that is fantastic about this community. So it's helped me to fall in love with it, and I really appreciate April and Arlene for putting together a great program. So, moving forward, as Georgia continues navigating a fast-moving legislative and economic landscape, today's conversation offers an important opportunity to hear directly from the leaders helping to shape our state's future. From tax relief and workforce development to education, economic competitiveness, and the possibility of a special session this year brought no shortage of significant issues impacting Georgia's business community. So, unfortunately, Senator Walker could not be here with us today, so he sends his regrets. And also, you'll notice that Chairman Dickey is not here. And no, he's not just tending to the peach trees. He's up in D.C. He's plowing some new ground up there in D.C. with Commissioner Tyler Harper, trying to get that farm bill going. Hey, it's the number one industry in the state of Georgia. Ag is, so we need to do everything we possibly can to get that farm bill in place. So, if you will, please join me up here in welcoming our legislative panel. We've got my representative, Chairman Sean Blackman, Representative Noel Williams, Representative Bethany Ballard, Representative Anissa Jones, and our freshman Senator Stephen McNeil, along with Robbins Chamber CEO, Ms. April Bragg. Thank you.
The whole day. Just an old sweet song. Keeps Georgia on my mind.
In case you're wondering what's happening, they have assigned seating.
Got a
For
school
this,
teacher
so we
right here.
can, yes, so we can all have a chance to engage. But thank you all so much for being here. It's always great to share this space with you, and thank you to our legislators for making time to catch us up on what happened in this session, right? And when we talked about what happened, a lot of things happened. A lot of things took turns that were perhaps unexpected, and just yesterday, the governor finished signing bills for the session, and the constitutional requirement of our legislature is to pass the budget, and that got signed yesterday. So I'm going to start with you, Representative Blackman, to tell us, give us a quick rundown on the budget and what did and didn't make it there. So I hope you'll have popcorn or something.
Well, gosh, thank you, April. I do think we're all processing still some of the way things evolved. We've been hearing things for weeks, and nobody knew exactly what to expect. The speaker lets me run the Ways and Means Committee meetings, so we're in charge of tax policy. And this year we had priorities from the Senate on income tax, and then we had priorities from the House that dealt with property tax, and maybe dive a little bit deeper into those two. But at the end of the day, I think what the governor said this week is that over and above the $500 that we rebated taxpayers on income tax, that the standard deduction that was included for this year in the income tax bill, which is another $500 for a family of 4, back in their pocket. And I'm sure y'all are paying the same thing at the pump that I am. So affordability is the main issue. He determined that I think there were $200 or $300 million that could, in new spending that could be held back, that would go back to families. And so, all in all, Governor Kemp, over his tenure, has returned in excess of $12 billion, I think with our help, it's fair to say, to the taxpayers. And that's in the form of gas tax suspension, income tax relief and rebates, and then of course the homeowner tax relief grant, which this year will come in the second iteration. It's $880 million that you'll see some help on your property tax bill. So a quick overview without taking too deep a dive, but I know there's some more questions that'll come our way.
Yeah. So I think for those of us, talking to people quite frequently about what's happening or happened during the session, I think the words unique or different came up in a word or phrase. So just like rapid fire, and we'll start with you, Representative Jones, on the end. How would you describe this past session?
I guess water hose. It was a firing of a water hose. We had so many different topics, so many things that we had to deal with, but I do think the major thing that we were talking about was making sure that we were supporting practical economic relief, making sure that we had a lot of workforce readiness available, and also making sure that we were ensuring that rural communities as well as Middle Georgia was taken care of. So I think we did our best to do that, but it was a lot of things coming at you at one time.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a long phrase, but it was a challenging session.
I would say a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Or to be determined later.
I don't get a turn.
I just talked.
Yeah, so word or phrase to describe the session.
Well, it's an election year. We have a lot of people in the General Assembly running for different offices and higher office. And so, we saw a lot of different things. Some of it was very policy oriented. And I think a number of us can talk about some of those issues. We've got subject matter experts all over the board here. We're missing a couple of those, but all worked very hard to try to make this state the best place to live, work, play, and raise a family. So we'll continue to do our best to do that. And I see a lot of representatives from our different community folks, and just appreciate what y'all are doing at the local and federal level as well. Whoa.
Sorry. It was tiring. This session required a lot of compromise. Out there. It was one of those years I got everything on my to-do list done. Only one thing has my name on it because it had to get carved up and put in other people's bills.
You can thank those guys.
Some things just became Senate bills, but that's I'd rather have my to-do list done and it got done.
Absolutely. And our freshman senator was able to get some of those done for us.
Yes, I'm here. I'm Stephen McNeil, I'm a freshman here, and I was only there for 5 weeks, but it was like drinking off a fire hose, like Representative Jones said over there. But of course, I'm getting sworn in on 1 week. The following week, I'm qualifying for a May race. I'm not going to talk about elections at all, but and then crossover days the following Friday. So it was bam, bam, bam. The information and bills were flying at me a million miles an hour. But what I've learned really quickly is what a team process it is to get anything done up there.
That's right.
And the cost of living, affordability issues were front and center of legislators' minds, as we saw with the ever-evolving property tax bill, the ever-evolving income tax bill, and of course gas tax relief. But there were a litany of bills up there. One I was proud to see go through, and I can't remember what is it? I can look it up real quick. It's SB.
Probably changed.
Well, SB 447 is about building permit reform. It's gotten to a situation where too many of these inspectors were holding building permits for undue periods of time, and of course, those in the developing world and those who have done any home remodeling projects know that interest does not stop as those construction projects go on, and that should really reduce the cost of construction so that we can get more affordable homes out there, because we do have a shortage across the state. Something that I was glad to see addressed. But I learned a lot in a 5-week time, and it's a mentally exhausting exercise, but it's a great honor to be up there.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. So Representative Ballard, you mentioned that you worked on a lot, and like you said, it was carved out and moved into other pieces of legislation, but a lot of this session's education conversation centered around long-term solutions and not quick fixes. Why is Georgia focused so heavily right now on foundational literacy, math readiness, and computer science?
Okay, well, we're focused on elementary school literacy and those foundational principles because very simply, we have fallen so low, and I'm sorry if anybody is from Mississippi in this room, but Georgia is below Mississippi. Now, Mississippi for about a decade has, and y'all might have read articles about the Mississippi miracle in literacy. They have gone from worst in the nation to 21st in the nation in a decade. Now, the folks from Mississippi who I have worked with hate the term Mississippi miracle because they say what it was is the Mississippi decade of really, really hard work. And so I think that shows us we are not going to make any quick fixes in Georgia. We didn't get to this place in a minute where our reading scores are so low. It's going to take us a while to get back where we need to be. But if we're going to talk about affordability and jobs and our workforce, it starts with elementary school literacy. Everybody in this room needs people in their companies who can read and read well. When we first started back in this process in 2023, my first year, I'd heard people from, our military bases and our recruiters saying there were kids graduating who couldn't read well enough to pass the ASVAB test. And, you know, at that point, literacy becomes a national security issue, not just a workforce issue. So this year, we have been plugging away at this for 4 years. We finally got House Bill, I think it's 1193. My numbers, I'll get confused at the end of session. We will be solely focused on elementary school literacy. There will be a literacy coach in every elementary school in Georgia to help our children get where they need to be in literacy, help our teachers get retrained, because sadly we have found out our teacher prep colleges have not been teaching teachers how to teach reading, if that makes sense. So we've graduated kids that got out there with our tiny people and did not know the fundamentals of how to teach a child to read, which is a skill. It's not something that just magically happens. So that's just been our focus, because it's really the most important thing we can do as a society is have a literate populace. We talk about computer science.
Sure, go ahead.
Computer science, we've been working on that for 3 years with the Department of Education. If you think about it, computer science is just literacy for our new century. And so now the governor signed it yesterday. Starting in 2031, it will be computer science class will be a graduation requirement in the state of Georgia. We are joining all the other southern states in making that a graduation requirement. And what those states have found is that when it is a requirement and kids are introduced to it in high school, more kids enter the STEM fields and more women. It's like 123% of increase in girls pursuing the STEM field when they're sort of made to take it the first time, and then they find out that they really love it. So I'm hopeful that this will spur that in Georgia as well.
Well, and I think it was encouraging too to see the education legislation that did pass is much more directly tied to economic development and long-term outcomes. So we're going to kick back to you. Because taxes, right? That was probably was the singular biggest focus and theme of this session was clearly tax relief, along with Georgia's long-standing emphasis on fiscal discipline. So as lawmakers work through these priorities, what principles guided that conversation around maintaining both economic competitiveness and long-term financial stability? To talk about where we ended with tax policy.
Oh, let's see. Maybe talk a little bit about how we started, and then maybe get to where we ended, and you cut me off because it could be a full day.
Listen, you can talk as long as you want.
So regrettably, I do want to brag on our partners. Our delegation has been blessed. We had the ranking member in the Senate, for several years in John Kennedy, and then we have now the ranking member in the Senate in Senator Walker, who is the President Pro Tem. And I know Stephen McNeil probably feels like he has some really big shoes to fill, but he's been an amazing partner as part of our delegation, and already seen him a lot in Houston County. So I just want to thank him for his service and for stepping up and being a part of this delegation. I think, for us, our priority was property taxes, and the speaker called about a year ago and said, we're seeing, we're hearing from people, we're all, this is a conversation that was kind of brought to us, we didn't go looking for it. And so some of the first conversations we had, we reached out to the organizations that represent our cities, which is GMA, our counties, which is ACCG, and our School Superintendents Association, and our School Board Association. So, you're talking Justin and Stephanie, and we had Mike McGowan, and then we had Clint Mueller, and we had Jim and Larry Hansen. So, we started there, and, I also was fortunate enough to have some leaders here in Houston County that are part of those organizations and have been part of those organizations with our school system, with Mayor Patrick and all our mayors, and Chairman Perdue. And so we had those conversations, and we started out with a plan that was bold and very aggressive, to help our homeowners. We were going to say that we're going to add 3 different buckets of funding, because you can't fund local governments, without dollars coming in. And so you have operations to do. So we started with 3 different buckets of additional funding, and then we said over 6 years and then over 10 years, we're going to try to get homeowner property tax down to 0. And then we've got to also give some protections to people that are not homeowners, because if you take away the homeowner, then you have fewer voters that are part of the process. So, anyway, all good stuff. And again, it was we met, said this repeatedly, very inclusive and good faith and a lot of collaboration. I don't think I have ever been invited to the Minority Party Caucus lunch before, so I had conversations with our Minority Party, and good, healthy conversations, I thought. I know I learned a lot from talking to commissioners and mayors and council members and school board superintendents and school board folks across this state, and we shared a lot of best practices. And at the end of the day, where we landed on property tax is that there was a mandate that the people voted on a couple of years ago that would limit increases in assessments, so future increases. And then we had a new piece that survived to the end. It was a new sales tax that the people could vote on to replace their homestead property tax. So we have FLOSS that replaces all property tax. Then you have what we call the LHOST, that is a homestead-focused reduction, penny of sales tax. So again, that would go through the local delegation. It would go up for referendum if the locals so desired that to happen, and then that would, in Houston County, eliminate all of your city and county property tax here in Houston County, and that would do so in over 100 counties and within the cities within those counties across the state. So something that that we'll have ongoing conversations, and again continue to be collaborative and inclusive, and again, I think all the conversations have been in good faith. And while I think our good friend Al Williams says is, while we may disagree on some things, we haven't been disagreeable, and so very, very healthy for us to be having that conversation, because we all serve the same folks, at the end of the day. Now, income tax was a little different animal, and that started out in the Senate, and I think the elimination component was heavily talked about. We had put forward in the House a proposal that would kind of extend the roll down of the rate, and would also take the rainy day fund and bump it from 15% to 20%, and provide for the taxpayer relief effort over and above that. So if we had surplus, which we do now, you saw April, we went up almost 6% year over year. So we're in a very healthy place here in Georgia, and thankfully we're fully funding our education requirements and our law enforcement. And we've got all of our obligations that we're supposed to be funding, and then over and above that, we've given teachers raises. We got some of the highest paid teachers in the Southeast, and our law enforcement has seen raises, and we've done things on the retirement and COLA front. So I think the idea is what can you do, and what can you do responsibly? And I think at the end of the day, we found a responsible way to again return tax dollars and find a way to continue to move that needle down. And where we ended up was a similar iteration is over 8 years. If the triggers are met here in Georgia, that you would see a roll down of the rate from 499, which goes into effect this year, down to 399. You just heard me mention the standard deduction, which goes up this year based on the governor signing the income tax piece yesterday, 2 days ago. And it would add an additional $500 for a family of 4 this year. There's some other components to that, and without getting into the weeds, I mean, we're helping seniors. We're raising their exemption up by $5,000. The dependent deduction, the standard deduction I mentioned, and then we also exempt tips and overtime from, in conjunction and consistent with what the feds did. So, does Does that cover? I mean, I feel like I talked.
Covers, but it's
I
still
tried to do it
complicated.
quick, yeah.
We're just thankful we've got smart people representing us, for sure.
But anyway, thank you for the opportunity to discuss that, and I'd be happy to answer further questions. I want to leave some time,
Absolutely.
Everybody worked really, really hard this session, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about.
So we'll make sure you stick around afterwards and have a decoder ring session with everybody.
I would be remiss if I didn't thank the local conversations that I had too. We could not do anything we do without listening to what it is you're telling us you want from us, and so that's the big picture here. And whether it's our great friends and our economic engine here at Robins Air Force Base and our military leadership, or whether it's a terrific school system we have, or our great cities and just a tremendous county and the fantastic job they do, and then the business community, which obviously I'm kind of patronizing a little bit here, but I'm really proud of what we have here in Houston County in Middle Georgia.
Well, and it really is something special. It's very rare that I have to introduce one of you to someone in our community because they do feel like they have that direct access. So really, unless they're new, they already know you guys. They've got your cell phone numbers. They probably use them often, but it just demonstrates the accessibility and the relationships that we have here locally, and we certainly don't take those for granted. So, Representative Williams, insurance. We worked a lot around, tort reform and the legal environment last year. Insurance became one of the defining business conversations this legislative cycle. Why do you think this issue has reached such a critical point for Georgia, and what are some of the things that your committee moved forward this year?
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, I want to thank you all for showing up this morning. I mean, it's a great crowd. Of all the civic events that we go to, this is always seems to be the best or the most well attended.
It's the best one.
And I represent five different cities and counties, or 5 different counties, and a lot more cities. But just thank y'all again for being here this morning. And this group that I get to work with, I'm not ashamed to say it's the best in the state. We all get along well. We work hard together. We collaborate together. We even brought Stephen, our new scholar, that has done very well and hit the ground running. And in fact, he carried one of my bills for me in the Senate. It was funny when I was in the Senate committee, and they said, "Well, Mr. Representative, who do you want to carry this bill?" And Stephen's up there just doodling on. I said, "I'd like Senator McNeil." And he looked at me like you blankety blank. But it was all in fun, and actually that did get passed. It did not get vetoed. So, but thank y'all again for being here today. And I want to give a shout out to Shaw Blackman, because I don't know how in the world Shaw could remember all of these different iterations, because y'all can't imagine the people that would go to him and say, "Hey, I think this is a better idea on property tax. I think this is a better idea on the sales tax deal, income tax deal." And so Shaw, I want to commend you. I work on your committee, and we met every day. And I'm telling you, I do not know how in the world he was able to keep that all straight, because seriously, it's a yeoman's job, and he did a wonderful job. Bethany with her education, I mean, the foundation, that's like blocking and tackling. If you can't read and write by 3rd grade, I mean, you talk about a calamity for our whole state. We are, I think, the 12th year in a row the best state to do business and work. And if we can get our reading scores and keep our kids educated, keep them coming back to Georgia, not to leave and go off somewhere else. If we can keep them in Georgia, then we're going to keep being the best state to do business. And Anissa, over here, we work with her. She's so easy to work with, and a lot of times you'd have friction with the different parties. But I mean, Anissa's one of us. She might vote a little different sometimes, but she's easy to talk to, and she has expert opinions. We can go to her and ask her about it, and it's great. So I just want to thank y'all, for working with us. And getting back to your question, we had a blue ribbon study committee this summer, and I was thinking, all right, sure, we'll have a couple of meetings, and they'll last an hour or so. Well, when they picked Matt Reeves, who's an attorney, to head up the committee, he called me and he says, "Noel, just give me some advice. What do you think?" I said, "Well, Matt," I said, kind of like a preacher, after an hour, man, you're toast. Well, our first meeting, how much he listened to me? Well, he's from Gwinnett, so that should tell you something. The first meeting was 4 hours. Shaw looked at me after 2 and was like, "Are you staying for this?" I mean, we were totally just, wow. But a lot of, insurance is, hopefully I know about that because I've been doing it for 30 years. That's how I make my living. But we did have some good outcome from that study committee, and it was, they were blaming the insurance companies for making all the money after the tort reform. That was the trial lawyers. That was what their argument was. And so the speaker said, okay, well, let's figure this all out. So one of the major things came out when State Farm came out and said, hey, we're going to give a 10% rate cut across the board. We also saw some help from the big beautiful bill that came out with our rural hospitals. You say, well, how's that with insurance? Well, that when our hospitals are funded with Medicaid and Medicare, and then as long as we have insurance practices in there, that helps keeps our hospitals alive and well. And y'all know as well as I do, if you ever cut the lights off in your town, get rid of your hospital. And we have been fighting for our rural hospitals, and that's hand in glove with our insurance and with our reform. And with our practices that we did, we really solidified our insurance market. We stabled it. We worked on the pathways through the insurance commissioner's office on the individual market. A lot of times we're seeing people that are getting out of the group market. They're not taking cover. They need some type of individual coverage. So we've expanded how many carriers there are in Georgia. And hopefully we're going to get more that's going to help the marketplace, because you all know with competition, that helps the cream rise to the top, and that's what we need. We don't need, one source. We need to have more than one opportunity for our different, existing businesses. So we had a lot going on with the study committee. We had 5 different meetings that were all over the state of Georgia, and I'm sure there's going to be more to come from that. We're going to expand on that, but hopefully that answers some of your questions on the insurance marketplace and what we did.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So Senator McNeil, as you mentioned, you entered the legislature during the middle of an unusually complex session. From your perspective, what surprised you most about the experience? And then as a follow-up, what are you most proud to have accomplished?
Most surprising aspect was just the sheer amount of just sunrise to sunset work, and of course through the night too. But sessions are one thing, and on the Senate side we have 4 amendments, so things are really, you got to keep your attention at all times and make sure you know what you're even voting on, because it's not just voting on a bill, yay or nay. It's voting on the multiple amendments to that bill, or a motion to table that bill, and a motion to move to the previous questions. And I mean, it's the parliamentary process in the Senate is, there was a learning curve there for me for sure. But on the committee side, after crossover day, I got there, I guess a week and a half before crossover day. And after crossover day, that's when we accept all the House bills over there, and just by pure numbers game, there's a lot more House bills than there are Senate bills. And vetting all those bills through committees, and I was sitting on 6 committees, and that was extremely overwhelming. And just trying to be able to read the bills, and I mean, that House bill, was it 1344, the insurance reform bill, 60 some odd pages. And there's a lot of legalese, and even as a lawyer, it was still a lot of legalese. Just hard to understand everything upon a first reading. That was the most surprising aspect. What was the second part of that question?
Highlights. So what were you excited to have a hand in or see passed?
The highlights were just being able to, there was, I wouldn't call the freshman hazing the highlight, but I was able to carry bills for House members, and just getting those first bills to the Senate that I was carrying. Of course, there was initiation process there where they gave me a pretty hard time. The first bill I carried was assigned by the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, which I sit on, Brian Strickland. It was a protecting zoo animals bill, and because we have so many, I carried it because we don't exactly have a ton of zoos in Senate District 18, but it's like Brian said. He's like, the irony here is we're protecting animals that are behind bars, and if you violate this bill, we're gonna put you behind bars too. But that was my first bill, and they gave me a rough time on that one. they added trial lawyers to the protected class of wild animals being protected on a floor amendment. And by the end of my presentation, there were something like 4 amendments to it, and they're just trying to really confuse my mind. But it was fun, and I will say on both sides of the aisle, both parties, there are great people out there serving everyday Georgians who have Georgia's best interests at heart. And there are extremists up there for sure that I don't think on both sides. I do not think are very well intentioned, but they're just the camaraderie among all those colleagues is great. And there's thankfully a lot of compromise and cooperation getting these bills to the governor's desk.
Very good. So Representative Jones, I know you serve on a few different committees surrounding healthcare, economic development, transportation. What, in your mind, it was the most significant legislation that you were part of this session?
I think the one that expanded financial and eligibility for nursing education programs, if I'm remembering, it was House Bill 541. It was something that was very instrumental for me because of the fact that we do have a shortage of healthcare workers in the state of Georgia, especially in our rural areas, and to be able to expand that so that we can have practical approaches to getting the much needed healthcare shortage filled was amazing for me this year. We have to make sure that we're always thinking about providing one of the basic quality of life things, and that's to be able to have accessible, affordable, quality, patient-centered healthcare in the state of Georgia. So I was very proud that we had a hand in moving that forward. Something else that I personally worked on was my bill that I brought forth was House Bill 1346. And it was what I call the Georgia Maternal Mental Health Improvement Act. I was very proud of it because not only did we get it to a committee, which was great, it came out of committee and positive, but it just didn't cross over. And its whole premise was to ensure that we had medical necessity for maternal mental health, not just during the pregnancy, but 12 months after, which are very critical times for a mother, whether you're a new mother or whether you've had children before. It can be very overwhelming. There's no roadmap for that. And so we want to make sure that there was a lot of support in that particular realm, so that when you have a healthy mother, you have a healthy child, and when you have healthy children, you have a healthy community. And so I was very proud that it got to that point, and we're going to keep working on it. I have many colleagues up there that have been working on the same bill for 3 years, 7 years, 10 years. So we're going to keep pushing it till we get it where we want it to go, so that we can make sure that everyone in Georgia has the opportunity to be healthy and thrive in this great state.
Very good. So this one's kind of for all of you, I guess, but there were 20 different data center bills, and none of them passed. What do we think that says about the appeal of that and the future of data centers in Georgia? Not all at once.
I'll start. I think that what it is that we have a lot of education to do as it wraps around data centers. I think it gives us an opportunity to kind of pause and really do a lot of investigation on what's true and what is not as it relates to data centers. I think there's a lot of information that's out there that everybody's trying to navigate. Everybody doesn't fully understand the purpose, and there are a lot of old facts that are still being spewed as it relates to data centers and how they operate, as it relates to how they came out when they first was introduced to the world, and they no longer are practicing that way at this time. a lot of misinformation as it relates to how much water they're using, how much electricity is being used in reference to them. So I don't look at it as we didn't win or it didn't happen. I look at it more as an opportunity now for us to educate the community about what's real and what's fake, so that we move forward. Because some communities have definitely benefited from the data centers being there. And with I have a husband who's in IT, he's been in cybersecurity for a very long time. So I get a firsthand opportunity to have someone that has educated me very well on data centers and what they do and what they don't do. But everybody doesn't have that. And what I do know that he says all the time is, if you don't like data centers, then you need to start using the data. We have that. So we need it. It's a part of what we have going on. If you want to continue to see your grandkids through pictures and continue to use the devices that you're using every day, we're going to have to figure out how to get with this technology so that it's responsible technology.
Please.
Well, I was just gonna make one quick point. I think the locals need to be more involved instead of the state giving the tax incentives or the, abatements. I think the locals need to figure out, find that piece of land and find out what they want to do if they want to get tax relief. And I think let the locals decide instead of Atlanta telling them what they can and can't do.
Okay, Noel stole the first part of my response. I really do think data centers, it's probably the most local issue that's out there. What's right for one community is not right for another. It needs to be on the local level. But I will say this, we have a choice in America. We can house our data, or China can house our data. So that's the choice we're gonna have to make. If we want China controlling the new generation of computing and AI, if everybody's fine with that, and I'm not. So I think that we're gonna have to figure out how to make our peace with data centers, somewhere in America. Go ahead.
No, all these great points, I think it's been covered quite well. I just, my 2 cents is a couple of years ago, we hit the pause button on that. The General Assembly hit the pause button on, what the state was going to get involved in along those lines. I think we have sunsets that are upcoming. We all voted on something that would dig deeper and make sure that we're analyzing the resource component, whether that be power or water or, land, or how close it ends up to residents. But again, I think as mentioned here is the local component is so very important when you see places like, I hate to, point out Columbia County, but this goes back and tying everything back to taxes. Local governments at times, when they want to eliminate or reduce property taxes for homeowners, don't have the tools to do it. So one of the components of our proposal was to allow something to come in like a data center, and Columbia County was going to be able to wipe out all of their homeowner property tax if we'd gotten that through with just that one data center coming in to the county. And so we obviously need to be aware of the cons, but we need to look at the pros as well.
That doesn't sell well on Facebook, Michelle.
Well, and that was I think where people use AI constantly. I think that's one of the bigger challenges that I applaud all of you for how you navigate is the amount of just misinformation and often well-intended misinformation that surrounds so many issues, whether handled at the state level or locally. Those decisions come with a public price tag that does make it difficult for leaders to move forward in a productive way. So let's shift gears a little bit. And one thing that we've talked about for a while has been benefit portability as it relates to the business community. So House Bill 987 created a voluntary framework for independent contractors to receive portable benefits without changing their employment classification. With more people working in flexible roles, how significant is this for Georgia's modern workforce? Whoever wants to take that.
I think it's very significant. I think it's very significant because it can establish more entrepreneurs, more folks that can work, by themselves or for themselves, and not have to be in a group to afford the group benefits. Now, are the benefits gonna be as good? You know, the jury's still out on that. But at least they have an option to take that with them, and I think it was a great idea, and just, there's another tool in the toolbox for the state of Georgia.
Very good. So communities across the state are growing, we all know that, and they are facing pressures around housing, infrastructure, workforce retention, and quality of life. I think some of this will tie into education. How much of session was really about positioning communities to compete for people and not just projects? And if you've got any specific legislation you want to talk about, I think the computer science piece and being able to integrate that into a graduation requirement in Georgia is significant, but from a larger perspective, what are y'all's thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know, I would probably kick this over to, you know, Chairman Ballard at this point, but, you know, for us, I mean, I just want to applaud. I mean, this is a collaborative state, local, and I would include federal, because a lot of what we're doing is to make sure that we're ready for the jobs that y'all are bringing to Middle Georgia, you know, at Robbins. But the STEM Academy that broke ground the other day at our local school system is almost entirely funded on their own with a little bit of help from the state. I think we've got $7.5 million in, and the county has put $5 million in, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but we got Central Georgia Tech. I see Dr. Scott. I do not see Dr. Allen this morning, but oh, there he is, Dr. Allen. He's you know, has contributed and garnered some private funding too to that cause, and we'll continue to work on that. Is just a major step forward for Middle Georgia, and the fact that our school system is going to cater to the 11 county area without really charging any of the other counties for that is pretty impressive to me, and I want to thank them for taking the lead role there and letting us be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And you know, we do a great job in Houston County with computer science education. We've got it from the beginning level all the way up to AP computer science. But I think the benefits of this graduation requirement are going to be seen in our rural counties even more, because the way we wrote it into the bill is that computer science requirement can be satisfied through Georgia Virtual School. So these rural counties that might not have a computer science teacher don't need one at first. They just need a teacher in the room to make sure that those kids are paying attention to what's going on in the virtual teaching opportunity. It can be satisfied through GTRI, Georgia Tech Research Institute. So we tried to really fit it to our rural schools too, and I think that more computer science education will benefit those rural counties by, you know, having a technology literate workforce. Because one thing I hear from our rural counties over and over is our kids leave and they go to college and they don't come back, and I'm like, well, that's because there's not very many job opportunities there. So I think we have focused for a number of years now about getting industry into our rural counties to benefit them and keep us the #1 state to do business, because it's not just about Atlanta, it's about all of Georgia.
Well, and I think this is a good segue into, oh, I got another, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, you know, Middle Georgia is very much positioned to have a wonderful regional impact because of the fact that we have aviation, we have logistics, manufacturing, all in one location, healthcare, and with the benefit of our technical institutions here, we are able to be at a pivotal point where we can align education with workforce readiness and strategy. So I just want to say that we are on the cusp of doing something very, very great here in Middle Georgia as it relates to education.
All right. So the thing I would like us to touch on before we do a closing question for everybody, I know that you will be chairing a Blue Ribbon Study Committee, Representative Ballard, that really does tie all of those educational components to economic development and workforce pipeline. Can you share a little bit about that?
So this committee, it has two objectives. We will be looking at the CCRPI metric that rates our schools. It's been in place over a decade, however it was intended to work, it is not working in that manner. It's time to look at that. It's time to give that a refresh. And just make sure, nobody's against accountability, but we want to make sure that what we're measuring is what we need to be measuring, and it's measured accurately so that we know what's going on in our schools. And all of the superintendents I have talked to throughout Georgia are really excited to be able to examine CCRPI. I won't tell you what some of the school superintendents have told me they call that. Just think CCRPI. You can figure out kind of what they call that. The next part is looking at workforce, not only how our education shapes our workforce, but our teacher workforce. We're going to be examining another step in pay for our most senior veteran teachers. But also we're going to examine quality of life in our schools, because what I'm hearing from teachers, whether they're beginning teachers or veteran teachers, is what that school climate looks like. We're going to actually talk about discipline in our schools. And because it is not money that makes teachers leave the classroom. I mean, nobody's going to turn down more money if anybody wants to offer that. But what is making our teachers leave the classroom is the kind of the quality of life in their workplace. So we are going to be discussing and answering some of these really hard questions that lots of people don't want to talk about. I'll talk about anything.
Yes, yes. All right, so in closing, I would love for each of you to just share what you're most proud of or what gives you most confidence coming out of this session. You want to start?
Well, I think we've been talking about it for a little bit here, just investing in our workforce. We have a critical shortage of skilled craftsmen in many industries, and I'm sure the base is feeling it. I'm sure many contractors are as well. And that's also a reflection of how fast Georgia is growing among many different industries. And by investing in literacy and computer sciences as well as math. I mean, we didn't talk about it a lot, but a big investment in math where we're going to mandate 60 minutes of instructional time a day for starting in 3rd grade, going into 4th grade, and then in middle school, when these kids take their standardized testing, if they're placing above and beyond, we're going to guarantee them advanced math classes so they can graduate from high school, hopefully at a calculus level, and it'll help them get into the more skilled education arenas, Georgia Tech's and other engineering schools or vocational and technological schools. We are really investing for the future. It's not anything we'll see instant results on, but I think they'll be paying dividends well into the future.
And I'm glad he did carry the math bill for our colleague from the House, Sandy Donatucci, and what I will say about the math bill is the entire state will now be doing what Houston County already does. So again, Middle Georgia's leading. I think this year one of the things I'm most proud of, it was a tiny, tiny bill. It was a page and a half. It is so not sexy. And he carried it for me because he carried all of our bills. We had them queued up for nothing. All it does, and it affects our military communities, if a relative out of state passes away and you want to inherit their car, we have made that infinitely easier to get a car title. Asked me about my experience crying in the tax and tag office over my mother's car. So I determined that was not going to happen to anybody else in Georgia, and so I fixed that. And again, it's just a little bill, but it does what we're supposed to do up there, which is make people's lives easier. Yeah,
absolutely. Some of y'all probably heard me mention this before, but our state's original motto is Latin, non citi sed nullius, and it means that thus we labor, but not for ourselves. And so all the conversations that we have in this delegation among the General Assembly, whether it be the House, the Senate, or between the two, or all the different local officials that I was really blessed with the opportunity to engage with this past session, this past year, we all recognize that we're blessed because the people do not derive their power from government. The government derives their direction from the people. And I think to a person across this state and across the General Assembly, and certainly within this delegation, that is the case. And it just reinforces, the good work that's being done and the opportunities that we have moving forward. Thank you.
I think we keep building on our future. We put in the budget, or University of Georgia now is going to have a medical school.
Yeah.
We're going to have some more, I believe, those ophthalmology over at Georgia Southern. So we're investing in our future that's going to pay dividends. Also, we talk about agriculture as our #1 industry. Well, we had a couple of paper mills that shut down, and so we were being proactive and looking at ways we can improve upon that and stop that from happening again. We're helping our neighbors when they need help. Look at the fires down in southeast Georgia. We were there working. We had representatives from North Georgia that were part-time firefighters down there helping. Also, the state, what we did for the hurricane victims in Helene, in the timber industry, in the ag industry. It's talking about China, we want to keep producing our own food because, we don't want to get it from somewhere else. That is, that is very important to us, and we have to take care of ourselves, and I think that's what we're doing. Also, one more point is kind of hitting on what Shaw said. People always say, oh, well, the government will do that, they'll pay for that. Well, we're the ones paying the taxes. Let's give back to the people because they're the ones that are doing it. Take care of our people. So I think that's our job in Atlanta. And as long as we're taking care of the people, we're doing what we're supposed to do.
I think for me, it was making sure that I protected working class people and making sure that everybody had an opportunity to thrive. And by that approach, everything that came before me, I wanted to make sure that it was balanced tax policy that protected everyone, whether you were a homeowner or not. And it did so in a manner where it didn't unintentionally shift some of the burden on those that could not afford it. So I was very happy that we have had some options for that so that local governments could decide on their own whether or not they wanted to participate in that or not, and it not be mandated by the state.
Thank you all so much. Please join me in giving them all a final round of applause. And I can't help but think, so many of the things we've discussed today, obviously impact each of us in this room, but the responsibility that you all have in your organizations and the employees and team members who are impacted by these issues as well. As you all know, the work doesn't stop just because sessions stop. So each of our legislators will be continuing to work on legislation, on committees and other things, but we all have work to do as well. And the Board of Education, you'll see a QR code come up, has asked for our participation in a survey called Portrait of a Graduate that really is focused on what are those skills and qualities that are needed of students who are coming out of high school, whether that's to enter the workforce directly, to move on a technical path, or college and beyond. But those are things that we need to know here locally. We're going to put this in our email recap, so you all will have the link, but I encourage you to scan that and participate, especially those of you who are in executive leadership and HR. I want to thank Phillips Furniture for our fabulous set today, and Terracon, We Can Dig It, and they made sure of that with some shovels in the back, and you've got some swag on your tables as well. As Jeremy mentioned, school will soon be out for summer, and we take the summer off from this impactful series as well, but we will be back here in August, on August the 20th, with our friends from the Board of Education. And many of you have asked, and we do have an exciting announcement about our Business After Hours with Megan. The Middle Georgia Business After Hours has a new sponsor and a new location, the Robbins Financial Capital Theater. We will be there, I know, right? On August the 13th, and we encourage you all to make plans to join us for that just amazing regional event. So thank you all so much. Please leave your name tags on the table, and we will see you next time.